Good morning, or hello, good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, December 9th. We're going to take a pause from our Forces in Motion project today and tomorrow and focus on our Forces in Motion power focus area. This power focus area is going to pass on December 11th, which is on Friday. So we're going to take a few minutes to get ready and get prepared for that content assessment. Take some notes on it so that you can be more prepared to take the content assessment. It's not posted yet because I have them scheduled in Google Classroom to drop at a certain time, but this is the note taker that is going to be available to you in Google Classroom. If you're struggling to find it, you can go to whatever your class is and you'll click classwork. And it is going to be at the very bottom, Forces in Motion Power Focus area. Like, for example, this one isn't scheduled to drop until 10:10 a.m. this morning. That's just because I wanted it to drop when class starts. So whatever class period you have, whatever time your class starts, that's when your Power Focus area note taker will drop. But you're going to need that open in order to complete today's focus area note taker. So we're just going to start with key terms. And these are all words that are fairly familiar to you. We have talked about throughout our Forces in Motion project. So the first word is a force. This is a push or a pull on an object, and it has the ability to change direction of the object. Net force is the total amount of forces acting on an object measured in newtons. And this is when we use our T-chart and we do a little adding and subtracting to figure out what the net force is. Balanced forces, these are two equal forces acting in opposite directions on an object. If it is a balanced force, it is not going to cause a change in motion, and it's going to be 0 newtons. Unbalanced forces, these are unequal forces that cause a change in motion, and the net force is always greater than 0 newtons. Friction, this is a force that opposes motion between any surfaces that are touching, and it's going to make a sound like this. Okay, if I was pushing a box across the floor, if my car rolling, the tires rolling on the pavement, that is experiencing friction. Isaac Newton, he has the theory or the idea of gravity, and he talked about how matter must have a force that pulls other matter toward it, and he talked about the relationship between force, mass, and acceleration, which is really focusing on his second law of motion. Newton also had 3 different laws, and we've talked about them throughout this Forces in Motion project. Newton's first law says that objects in motion stay in motion unless acted on by an unbalanced force, and then objects at rest stay at rest unless acted on by an unbalanced force. His second law says that acceleration of an object depends on force and mass. And what this just means is if I had a wagon and I put some rocks in it and I started pulling it, I would have to use a little bit of force. If I used more force, the wagon would go faster. If I put more rocks in the wagon and pulled with the same force, it would slow down. Newton's third law says that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. I'm sitting in a chair right now. That the action is me sitting in this chair. The reaction is the chair, the normal force of the chair holding me up. Okay, if I push on a wall, the reaction is the wall is going to push back and we're not going to move. Excuse me. Acceleration is a change in how fast an object is moving. There's also some other definitions of acceleration that we're going to talk about here in a few moments. And then air resistance is the force caused by air. The force acts in opposite direction to an object moving through the air. If I throw a football, the air resistance is working against the football to try to slow it down. These are all words that you will need to make sure that you have put into this key terms section. You're going to probably need to pause and look at the words and type them out. The slides will also be available to you. We're going to keep moving forward. Objective 1 in our power focus area says to characterize a force as having both magnitude and direction and give examples of specific types of forces that may act on objects. So we've talked about different types of forces. We've talked about friction. We've talked about gravity. We've talked about what a force is, but some things that you need to know is that forces always come in pairs. And Newton's third law talks about the action and reaction forces. And action and reaction forces are equal and in opposite directions. If I push a ball, that ball is going to go rolling. The action is me pushing the ball, the reaction, the ball rolling. Just with the balloon on the string and the straw activity the other day, the balloon air released, pushing backwards, causing the straw and the balloon to move forward. Okay, and the strength of a force is measured in newtons. So you're going to want to type this information in the objective 1 box on your note taker. Objective 2 is you are to determine when forces are balanced or unbalanced on an object and explain how this will affect the motion of the object. So this is being able to calculate net force. So doing the T-chart, there's a video on how to do that in our 6th grade checkpoint directions document. Remember that in an unbalanced force, the object is going to move and the net force is going to be more than 0 newtons. In a balanced force, the object does not move and it is equal to 0 newtons. No more, no less. And then you, like I said, you do have to know how to calculate net force. There are quite a few questions that you could have on the focus area that asks you to figure out what the net force is. If you're pushing a couch or if there's a box and here's all these forces acting upon it, what's the total net force? So be prepared to answer those questions. Those notes go in objective 2 box. Now, there is an objective 3 on the focus area, but we have it to where the focus area does not ask you any questions about objective 3. So we are not going to focus on objective 3. So please do not worry about objective 3 and study objective 3 because there are no questions asked about objective 3. So we're going to go ahead and move to objective 4. Objective 4 says that you need to describe the relationship between the mass of an object, the force applied to the object, and the object's acceleration. So this objective is focusing on Newton's second law of motion. So here are some things that are important to know. If you increase the mass, it can cause acceleration to decrease. Okay, so if I'm riding a bike and I put a backpack full of books on and I keep pedaling at the same speed or at the same force, I'm going to slow down. If you decrease the mass, it can cause acceleration to increase. So if I take that bag of books off and I'm pedaling at the same force, I'm going to speed up. And then if mass stays the same and the force increases, acceleration will increase. So if I'm riding my bike and all of a sudden I start pedaling with more force, I'm going to speed up. Anytime that net force is greater than 0 newtons, that means that there is some acceleration occurring. And here are those different examples of acceleration. So it's the rate of change in an object's velocity. It is also speeding up, slowing down, or changing direction. So those are some pieces of information that are important for objective 4. Make sure you type that in this box. Once you finish that, there is going to be a Kahoot challenge available to you to take and practice with so that you can be more prepared for your power focus area assessment. Remember, it is due on Friday, December 11th, so it'll pass and it will turn red unless you take it. Other than that, have a wonderful day, and if you need anything, we are here in the Zoom meetings.